Hey, Brakta Yahweh, Brakta Yahweh Shai, Brakta Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone where I learned this truth. And peace, blessing, and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, which consists of you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know, the elect of our people, man. You know, shalom unto you. And, you know, pretty much, you know, this lesson is going to be going into that. A lot of Israelites, man, who know that they Israelites, you know, and who may even be amongst camps, you know, different groups, they ain't really changed, man, you know, because, hey, me coming into this truth, even before I met brothers, you know, before I met brothers who I'm, you know, the company of brothers I'm with here in Pasadena, you know, I knew two dudes in the world who was telling me about the truth. You know, they put videos of the apostles on, you know, so I can hear them, you know, but these dudes who ain't really changed, man, you know, at some point in time, these are dudes who gave in to seducing spirits, you know, and doctoring the devils, man. Though they had the truth presented to them and given unto them, and they knew about it, those is dudes who still found some comfort in the world, man, you know, and they wasn't really sincere. And though they claim to be down with the Lord using their mouth by saying they down with the Lord, they was never really down, man, you know. And there's a lot of guys like that, man, and a lot of the dudes who are in that spirit who are not really changed, who ain't really changed for the better, you know, in the better for serving the Lord in righteousness, they gonna be revealed, man, and ultimately y'all gonna be destroyed right along with Babylon the Great, you know. And I got a few precepts here, and I pray this is an edifying lesson to the Lord's elect, you know. This the book of Luke chapter 9 and verse 57. And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, and this is Yahweh Shai, the him, Lord, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest, you know. And hey, man, pretty much we was in that same spirit when we heard the word. We was ready to, we told the Lord, hey, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, I'm ready to follow you wherever thou wilt, wherever you goest, you know. And, you know, us being in that spirit, you know, we got to do the best thing we can, you know. First we got to pray, you know. First we got to do the things that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai finds favorable, you know, fervently praying, you know, fasting, you know. And then with all this, man, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai will give us the ability to study, man, and then to teach, you know, and continue to follow in that in his spirit, man, through the Rakah HaKodash, man, you know. Verse 58. And Yahweh Shai said unto him, foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head, you know, symbolizing that the Lord, you know, the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, he's not in just one place, man, you know. And the spirit of the Lord is constantly moving, it's constantly going forward, constantly growing, you know. And that's how we got to be, man. And Yahweh Shai, when he was out in his ministry, you know, he was constantly on the move, man, throughout the lands of Judah, you know, in Jerusalem, you know. So Yahweh Shai was letting them know that this walk ain't a beautiful thing, man. It's not a beautiful thing in the eyes of a carnal man, you know, in the eyes of this world, you know. This walk, you know, you ain't gonna have, you know, comfort anywhere, man, you know, because even the birds and the foxes, they have a home. But in this truth, you know, our home is the kingdom, you know, and we're not in the kingdom yet, you know. And the mindset that we got to have in this truth, you know, that we live a life, you know, that, you know, in this truth, we got to have that mindset where we're not being in this truth, man. We not gonna be praised, we not gonna be glorified, man, you know. And this truth, this ain't a popular thing, man, you know, because Our people, really, they don't like to be edified. They don't like to be corrected. They don't like to be, taught the right ways, And this is a walk where we're here to edify, man. Whether they hear or forbear, whether they come into the fold or not, we here to edify, and do the things that are pleasing to the Lord, But Jake, hey, man, they'll kill us if they can, man, And it was the same way Yahweh shot, verse 59. And he said unto another, follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. And, after hearing this, man, the Lord, after hearing that the Lord got nowhere to go, after he was teaching, doing miracles, doing the work of the Most High had him to do, it's the same for us, man. We do the same. We give everything up, and we say a brother, not a brother, but a dude come up to the camp, and he seemed like he down, or he agreed with a lot of things we talking about, and we tell him, hey, man, give your life and serve the Lord, man. Follow the Lord, follow the Spirit of the Lord. But then Jake come up with excuses like, nah, I got to do this first. I got to take care of my mom. I got to make sure all this other dumb shit, things that really ain't beneficiary to the body and ain't really saving for your own soul, man. And to get to the kingdom, we got to move in the spirit of the Lord, man, wherever he tell us to do. So if the Lord says to follow him, man, we got to follow him, But Jake, in the world, they want to just set up any excuse so they don't have to go through any adversity, man. Verse 60. And Yahweh Shai said unto him, let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of the Most High. And hey, Yahweh Shai was letting those dudes know that, hey, man, those who are dead, they dead, man. Let those who are dead bury their own dead, because hey, if you've been given, a little bit of this truth, if you've been given a little bit of this truth, as of, you may have been given a little bit of the understanding, or this word has been preached unto you, the affairs of this world, let the people in the world handle those affairs, man. Things is gonna be straight, with them, because hey, they eyes ain't single, man. They eyes is worried about many things, but us in this truth, we giving the warning of keeping our eyes single, man. To go thou and preach the kingdom of the Most High. So pretty much saying that, those in the world, who are dead in the spirit, let them bury their dead, man. And that's the spirit that brothers got to be in, man. Let the dead bury the dead, because nothing is going to stop us, from being rooted in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man, from keeping us in this truth, And we can't let things of the world, bury us and drown us with shit that ain't got nothing to do with us no more, man. Our focus and our mission is to, preach this word, continually, be in the spirit, the same spirit that the prophets and Yahweh Shai were in, man, Verse 61, and another also said, Lord, I will follow thee, but let me first go and bid them farewell, which are at my home, at my house, And again, there's many dudes who get pulled back away from this truth because they mama or their dad or their brother or sister or their auntie or their grandparents, they always got to go back to them, man. But hey, you got to grow up from that spirit, man. There's dudes who walk in the spirit in times, and then something arise, and then they start to add excuses, man, because maybe something may arise within their home. Now they gonna add excuses upon everything, man. And again, it's because Jake don't understand how serious, being committed to the Lord is, man. You know, and we at the final seconds, you know. So, you know, us brothers in this truth, man, who've been striving sincerely, we gotta just really anchor down now more than ever, man, in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. We can't be like these dudes in the world who found out the truth. Either they bug out or they let other things drown them, man. You know, choke them up, as the scriptures say. You know, because they weren't rooted. You know, they were choked out. You know. Verse 62. And Yahweh Shai said unto him, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of the Most High. Right. So, you know, once you've been persuaded in your mind that Yahweh Shai is the truth, you know, and this gospel is really undefiled, it's the purest thing in all in this world, you know, you can't look back, man. And all the other things have to become second, third, you know, and so on, man. You know, and let me look up here, asking the Google, what does it mean to put thy hands on the plow? It means to commit fully to a difficult task or calling requiring absolute focus and no distractions. And hey, man, that's exactly how we got to be. You know, we can't be distracted when it's demanded of us to be totally focused, man. You know, we can't be, you know, ignoring a difficult task that the Lord, you know, has for us to do, you know, because, hey, man, really only, many are called, but few are chosen, man. So we got to, you know, be sincere, you know, and pray that we part of that chosen, you know, the Lord's elect. You know, but reading back at verse 62, and Yahweh Shai said unto him, no man having put his hands on the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of the Most High. Right. So, you know, that reminds me of this scripture. This the book of Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 16. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So going back to what I was saying earlier, you know, a lot of dudes, you know, they found comfort, you know, in them false doctrines at some point, you know, and though they know of the truth, you know, these is dudes who justify themselves in their own wickedness, man. You know, they never really want to let go that weed, you know, they don't really want to stop committing adultery. They don't really want to, you know, have respect for their parents, you know, things like that, man. These is dudes who are just rebellious to the core, you know, and it would do anything to try to justify themselves, not knowing that, hey, really, you clowns is in the congregation of the dead, man. You know, though you think y'all have some type of light because you know about the truth, you know you an Israelite, you know of your prospective tribe, you still a clown because, hey, man, you ain't really repent. You ain't really been focused when it's been required of you to be totally focused, you know, without distraction, man. You know. Let me get this real quick. This is the book of Colossians chapter 2 and verse 6. As ye have therefore received Yahweh Shah HaMashiach the Lord, so walk ye in him. Right, and we've received this truth, you know, by the way of preaching, you know, and it's required of us to teach this word as well, man. You know, the same way we were brought into Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, you know, and we are to walk us in him, you know, the same walk he walked, you know, the same sincerity, the same conviction, you know. Verse 7, rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Right. So dudes who ain't really changed, man, are guys who ain't really developed in Yahweh Shai, you know. And Yahweh Shai, you know, these is dudes who ain't really let Yahweh Shai develop in them, I should say, you know. These is dudes who ain't, you know, who lack the fear of the Lord, you know, and they ain't really been rooted in Yahweh Shai, man. So as the elect, as we grow and grow, we see the tears in the spirit that they really ain't been sincere, man. You know? And a lot of guys are like that. A lot of these dudes in these other camps, a lot of these dudes who've been rejected years ago, you know, and they think that now that we at the final seconds, they gonna try to creep up. Nah, man. You wicked ass dudes, man, y'all gotta just live it up while y'all can, man. Cause you dudes ain't really repented, you know. Y'all ain't really changed, you know. And again, you Israelites, man, you 2/3 really, cause brothers, man, we follow Yahweh Shai whithersoever he goeth. But you niggas follow anybody, man. And for that, y'all gonna be destroyed right along with this place, Babylon the Great, man. You know, so pretty much this lesson was just going into a few examples that Yahweh Shai experienced, you know, on how dudes really ain't changed, you know. They let things of the world choke them up, you know. And there's many guys like that today, man. You know, many guys. I know a few dudes, you know, I've never been around them amongst brothers, but before the truth, two guys in particular, they were the guys who kind of introduced me to the truth. And then months later, I met bros, you know, here in Pasadena, you know, the company of brothers I'm with, you know, teaching faithfully in truth and sincerity, man. You know, but before that, it was two guys in the world who every time I see them, I would be thinking, damn, man, this truth is awesome. Like, I can't wait to meet bros and go to the camp. I would even encourage those dudes, hey, man, how about, you know where they at? Let's all go. Nah, man, shit. I mean, if you ever find them, then that's cool, brother. That's cool, man. But we not finna go, bro. And it's like, even then, I kind of looked at them like, y'all weird, but I was just happy to get this truth, you know. I was ready to follow Yahweh Shai, man. But these is dudes who say they want to follow Yahweh Shai, but they still, before doing that, they want to bid farewell to their homes, you know. They got to bury their dead, you know. They got to do all sorts of shit that really ain't even required of you to do, man. You know. When you receive this truth, man, you just got to be that flame that is constantly flaming, being hot. You know, you can't just be, it's like Yahweh Shai says, you know, those who, I'd rather you be cold or hot, but because you're neither, I'll just spit you out of my mouth. And these is dudes who is lukewarm, you know. So pretty much with that, you know, I pray this is an edifying lesson. And to you niggas who are lukewarm and still ain't ready to serve the Lord, well, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, he gonna pay you a visit, man. Not a favorable one. And to brothers, man, you know, to myself and to brothers, you know, continuing to fear the Lord, you know, following Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai whithersoever he goeth, doing whatsoever is commanded of us to do, you know, and you know, continue to build up the body, man, to continue to strengthen the body and do what we can, you know, to the end, man. We at the final seconds, we here. And with that, I want to give all honor and praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakah HaKodash. Once again, double honors and salutations to the apostles and elders, elder bishops, elder brothers of GMS, where I learned this truth. And with that, Shalom.